Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, Mediell, so back in another Card Fight Vanguard deck profile. If you enjoyed them, like, comment, subscribe, and let's start, shall we? This time we're covering Lyrical Monasterio Mediell. So, Mediell is what I like to call almost the perfect name for this deck. If Mediell meant medium, because, great god, like, it's not bad. It really isn't, but it feels so generic. I mean, well, no, yeah, generic's the right word, because when I play this, I feel like the most generic player ever, but, like, let's go and get this started, shall we? And you'll maybe see what I mean, and maybe I'll have to delve into some stories to prove my point. First up, we have our starter into Work Harder Mediell. See the panda right there? Yeah, that's going to be a common theme for the rest of the ride line. So, grade 0, I forgot about this, let me quickly turn on the brightness. Okay, anyways, grade 0 boost 5k, shield 6k base, all of them wrote upon if you win second, draw a card, standard starter, not special spot. It's just a free draw if you win second. There's nothing more I can say about this, I'm pretty sure. What is that? Is it a Sudari? I don't know what the fuck a Sudari classifies as. I really don't. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but I feel like this is what would classify as a Sudari. I don't know. Again, I don't know what the fuck that is. But I feel like all you people, some of you, find this endearing and cute, so take it as you will of your starter. Then we have our Overtrigger in Greatest Star Artanza. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k base. Overtrigger, move one Overtrigger in your deck, revealed as a trigger. Move that card, draw a card, choose one of your units, it gets +1 melee for the turn. And if you revealed it during draw tech activation effect, which is during this fight, you get during your turn, all your rear guards get +10k power. So, just a free 10k to your whole board. I mean, not your whole board, all your rear guards, which is honestly really powerful. The second you hit your over, it's essentially game when it's Lyrical Monasterio because you've pretty much won if any of them are aggressive decks. Mediell is one of those decks that isn't actually that aggressive, believe it or not. I mean, compared to Kari and Rifla and stuff like that, she isn't that aggressive considering her only form of multi-attack is the restander they gave her because literally everyone gets a restander at this point. I mean, not everyone has one, but a lot of the decks nowadays do. The worst part is I feel like a deck last night, a deck last night, or 2 nights ago, I think got a restander. I don't remember who it was, but if I'm right, then I'm right. But, like, point is, Bushy's just giving everyone a restander at this point. So, fuck it, I wouldn't be surprised if Baz Vigrod got a restander. I also had a really weird dream about Baz Vigrod getting a shield. I don't know if that was a premonition or something, but I swear to God, if Baz Vigrod actually gets a middle shield, I'm going to be fucking laughing my ass off. But yeah, either way, there's going to be whatever over you want from the Lyrical Monasterio. Just essentially the second you sack this, you win the game, so might as well scoop there. Then we have our normal triggers. 3 of Transparent Snowy Knight Bertoi, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k base. Draw a turn, continues Guard Circle. If your opponent's Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater, this unit gets +5k shield. Cool, so it's a 10k guard, which is really nice when you're guarding in the early game, the late game, after your opponent rushes you, and there's pretty much no point to this outside of just, it's the 10k shield. I mean, you kind of want draws to help add to your hand, but you gotta remember, like, this deck, while it doesn't mill itself out like Grand Blue Turbo / what this deck is actually based off of, it does slowly deck itself out, so you gotta be really careful about those draws. So I say 3 of, because you don't see too many of them out of 3 of, but you see just enough to where you need them. Then we have 4 fronts in Snowgip Parvy. She is so cute to me, and I don't know why. Maybe it's the snow, because I like the snow. Who doesn't like the snow? If you don't like the snow, you're... I kind of want to quote something now. Yeah, fuck it, I'll quote this. I don't remember where it's from, but quote, if you don't like the snow, you're from a bastard place for hell, people. Yeah. Anyways, that aside, end quote, by the way. Anyways, that aside, front trigger contains Guard Circle, if your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater, gets +5k shield. Cool, so plus 10k to the front row all around is really nice, especially for a deck that does have a multi-attack gimmick / an extra crit giver. So I might as well have the extra front there to give some oomph to some attacks. So yeah, if I can't find another justifiable reason to run the front, I mean, just run fronts. Plus 10 to front row. Why the fuck not? She's also cute, like I said. If you don't like this, Bastard Town for Hell people is where you're from. Then we have our 4 crits in Precious Tune Edwidge, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k base, critical trigger, auto rear at the end battle sheet boosted. Put this unit to soul, choose one of your units, and it gets +2 for the turn. So, you run this for the soul. I mean, if you're a smart person, you run it for the soul. If you're me, you run this because you already have 2 of the effect triggers. Might as well go for the trifecta. So, yeah, that's why this is here mainly, the trifecta. I rarely end up using the crits at all for any nation. There have been occasions where I've used them. There have been occasions where they actually helped. The only time, though, being when I'm playing Leonore, and that's it. So, yeah, 4 of Edwidge. I mean, smart people run it for soul and maybe a possible 2k. I run it because I have the trifecta. Then we have our Heal Trigger and Peaceful Garden Anika. I think I made it clear before that whenever I have a deck that whenever I have a deck that I don't want to put the effect healing because I don't like the effect heals, as per said before, like, they're too gimmicky in my opinion. Yes, every deck, or almost every deck, has a restander now, but, you know, kind of trying to avoid the chance that I might not have one. For example, Welstra hits over those heals, and Welstra's the deck where you don't want to fuck with them with the heal thing. So yeah, I'd rather have this heal. But yeah, I think I made it clear at this point that if I ever have a generic heal in Lyrical Monasterio, it's probably going to be this one, just because she's my favorite. She's so nice and cute. So why not 4 of? Then we have our grade 1s. First up, we have 3 copies of Talented Diva Asri, who I somehow read her skill completely wrong. How, I don't know. So when I first read her skill, I'm going to go over her stats and her actual skill in a second, but when I first read her skill that day that she was released, I read it as auto when your rear guard is placed from drop by your Vanguard's ability, counterblast 1, draw a card. That's what I read it as. I don't know how I read that as, because when I read this, I guess I was tired. Actually, I don't even remember when she was released. But I know that I was wrong because when I went to go check my Discord, and I specify my Discord because my Discord's always the one where I copy and paste immediately from whatever I see in other people's Discords to make sure that I have the right information. So I went to go check this one, and in an unedited message, so the message wasn't edited, I found this skill. And I looked at everyone else's Discord, and I looked at the fandom. It was this skill. So now I've been going through my mind thinking, is this the Mandala effect? Did my friend Mandala come over here, fuck me in the mind, and then, oh my god, am I bleeding? Oh, is my nose bleeding, actually? Well, something happened. Point is, I got mind fucked, I guess, and for some reason I read the skill completely wrong. But her actual skill and stats are grade 1 boost 5k shield 8k base, auto drop when your rear guard is placed by your ability of your grade 3 or greater medial, counterblast 1, call to an open rear guard circle. Much shittier than I thought it was, because honestly a free draw would make this deck a lot better, because you don't need field spamming in this deck. This deck does field spamming on its own. I mean, even without this skill, I'm still constantly hitting rear guards, and I'm still getting so many defensive hand cards. Like, genuinely, if you think she's the most important and the best grade 1 in this deck, I greatly question you. And in Nuke game, yeah, sure, she's nice, because, you know, you can just keep recalling her. Is she that useful, though? No, because like I said, I have yet to use her skill once. I didn't use that skill ever because I had to read it to make sure, but I never used either of those 2 skills, and even then, this deck has been performing the exact same way. So, Estrella, as far as I care, could be a vanilla, and this deck would actually function the same way. Take that as you will, though. She's a good grade 1 if you actually need her for the Nuke game, so 3 of. Then we have 4 copies of Soaked in Coolness Yoto. I love the rainbow in the background. I like the water, but I don't really care for her herself. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 7k base. Act rear. If you have a Vanguard Mediell in its card name, put this to soul. Look at top card. Put it to top or bottom. And if you put it at the bottom, choose a unit and it gets +5. Okay, so the reasoning for this is soul. So a lot of people say or the way people use Mediell, in my opinion, kind of is a definition that this certain grade 1 in the deck, not this one, but another grade 1 in this deck, is super important. It's the most important grade 1, which I'm not going to argue, but it's like the most important card in this deck. I'd argue on the same level as Mediell, if not more important than her, because of what she does. And I say this because literally every time I see people play this deck, they use that grade 1 skill if they have access to it, which I can understand why it makes Mediell's cost cheaper. My issue is, though, you don't need to. This deck, and the way I play it, even with this in it, has no counterblast issues whatsoever. And maybe it's because I keep sacking heals, but honestly, I only sack 2 heals a game, so, like, and sometimes I even sack 1, and even then I'm not having counterblast problems. So, yeah, if I'm not having counterblast problems and I'm playing this deck, I feel like, you know, I feel like at this point I've started to do something smart sometime ahead of the people. I don't know. Maybe for once I am right. So either way, Yuto's just a nice grade 1, though. For the people that run that grade 1 for the Soul Blast thing, yeah, this is helpful for that Soul, and not to mention it's a free deck stack from Mediell, so run it as a 4 of, and it's a free 5. Then we have, oh, speak of the devil, it is that grade 1. I completely forgot what order I put these things in, so I know it's coming after the grade 1 then. So first up, we have Meddlesome Wellness Committee Phyllis, the grade 1 that everyone spams. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Act rear, once per turn, Soul Boss 2, choose one of your grade 3 or greater Vanguards with Mediell in its card name. Until end of turn, it gets plus 5k power, and the original cost of that unit's act abilities become Counterblast 1. Okay, fair. And then auto rear, when your other unit's placed on rear from drop, this unit gets plus 5. Okay, so essentially, if you have all these in drop, you can abuse the fuck out of it with Phyllis. And with her other skill, yeah, for those of you who don't know, Mediell is a Counterblast 2. That's why it says Counterblast 1. Again, I say, you don't need to use her skill. The deck has, like, the easiest way of getting around counterblast situations, even when I'm not sacking heals, even though, yes, I have sacked heals a lot. Granted, only 2 times a game at most, but still. So, like, I don't know. If you think Phyllis is, like, the most important card in this deck, I won't argue you, but I do greatly disagree with you on so many extents. I think arguably this is the best grade 1, because not only does it actually get her soul, but it also, which also, she's not the only one that uses soul, by the way, there are other units in this deck, but not only does it get you soul, it gets a free deck stack and +5. I'd rather have this out of 4 than this. I mean, obviously run both of them just in case, but like, yeah, if it's between these two, I'm obviously going to pick this if I had to cut someone from this deck. I mean, if I had to cut someone from this deck, it'd be this. If I had to keep someone, it'd be this. So 4 will fill this because for the people that actually think she's the most important grade 1 in this deck. But again, I say, well, I won't disagree with you openly. I will argue you in silence. So yeah. Sorry, I need water. Then we have Musical Committee Nicolene, RPG. Grade 1 boost, 0 shields, 6k base. For 1, she fits because this is an elf-based deck. Continuous Sentinel, 4 sounds in deck, and auto when it's put on guard circle. Choose one of these. It cannot be attended to battle, and if your hand has 2 or more cards, just card from hand, discard it. So that basically, standard PG, what that means is if this and only one of the cards in your hand when you place it on guard circle, you do not have to discard. Which is all about really nice because the way I play this deck, like I said before, I don't use this thing because she will never end up in my drop zone. I use that for more important units that I actually need to call because, you know, those units activate on call and not when they're in the fucking drop zone. So I'd rather have the other units in there because I don't need to guard as often because the 2 heals I sack come at the perfect time. So, you know, I call out really early. The PG's always in my hand as a safety net if I need to, if I've gone too aggressive in the early game. And then typically after that, we're at a very even stalemate. So either I'm about to deck out and I end up winning because I know what the last 3 cards in my deck are because they're always triggers for some reason. Or it's the fact that my opponent just can't handle me because I have way too many hand cards. And on the occasions I've lost long before this stalemate occurs. So for the PG, she's all around like super helpful because with the way I play this deck will never have a problem with counterblast as long as I just have the PG on my side. And then we have our last grade 1 copy in the riot deck of Sheltered Girl of the Pharmacy Mediell, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. She's rolled upon by grade 2 with Mediell and card natures up to 1 grade 2 or less from your drop zone, call it to rear, and if you call a card, reveal the top card. If it's a trigger, rest the called unit. Okay, on the bright side, the card goes back to top, so if it was a trigger, even though you lost out on a possible attacker size booster, hey, you got to trigger back to top. Now you can possibly call units. I remember the first time I used this skill, I saw a front at the top, and I was like, yeah, fuck it, we're going on grade 2 rush this turn. So, or grade 2 rush, technically speaking. So all around, Mediell is pretty nice. I mean, she gets you an extra attack, and half the time I've used this skill, it's been a trigger, but honestly, half the time I'd rather have the trigger, because fuck the extra attack. Yeah, my opponent knows it's coming. Doesn't mean they can stop it. It really doesn't, especially since I know what it is. They don't know it's in my hand. I can just quickly call 2 grade 2s. Oh, look at that, a front trigger. Okay, let's just abuse the fuck out of you, or crit, and etc. Like, Mediell all around, nice grade 1. I like her. It's a decent skill, one of in the right deck. And then we have our grade 2s, 4 copies of Solos Lacrima Ninon, or as I like to say, the playmaker of this deck, and this deck would be dead without it. Yes, I say this is the playmaker over this because this has been proven more useful in my games than she has. Quite literally, I've used her a total of 3 times. I think all of them are on camera. This I have used 10 times more. I've used her at least 30 times. I'm not even joking. Okay, well, that might be an over-exaggeration, but I've at least used her more than 10. So, anyways, grade 2 and stuff, 5k shield, 10k base. Auto, when she's placed on rear, if you have Vanguard with Mediell's card name. Oh, look at that! Doesn't have to be placed by abilities, so she can either be placed by Mediell's skill, or by anyone's skill for that matter, or just on her own during the main phase. Look at the top card of your deck, and put it to top of your soul. If you put it to your soul, you can look at the top card again, but this time it goes back to top instead. So either you get a free deck stack, and can just choose not to put it to soul, or you get a free soul charge, and then you get to look at the top card again. Granted, you can't change it, but the fact you get technically a top 2 free search and a free soul for this thing, 4 of. There's no reason not to run this out of 4 of. You see, this thing is fine and all because it supports Mediell, but she doesn't do anything to support herself. These 2 support her. These 2 are honestly better than her. 4 of Ninon. Good grade 2. Fuck yeah. Then we have 4 copies of Dearly Flowers Elise. Yeah, this unit is specifically why I hate the grade 1, because you know, the restander. Bushy keeps pushing out restanders. I think Bushy's trying to say, like, the most important thing about a deck, does it have a restander or not? If it doesn't have a restander, fuck it. It better have some way of getting extra crits or damaging. But if it doesn't have a restander, it can go fuck itself. So, like, this is why I hate it, because this is like Soul Blast 2, this is Soul Blast 1, and technically speaking, that makes you waste 3 souls if you went second, which is all your soul. So yeah, this is why I like all those other soul charges compared to her, Phyllis, because Phyllis isn't needed when the restander, while yes, the restander isn't needed, it does a lot more than what Phyllis does on the aggressive. So grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base, continues weird during the battle. She attacked a grade 3 or greater unit, she gets plus 5, cool 15k swing, and then auto when she's placed on rear from your drop by your Vanguard Mediell its ability. If it was a grade 3 or greater, it gets until end of turn, auto rear. At the end of the battle, she attacked, Soul Blast 1, stand her. So basically, you can choose not to. At the end of the battle, your Vanguard attacks. If you didn't sack triggers or your opponent sacked a trigger, now it's not worth restanding her. You don't have to pay the Soul Blast cost, but having the ability to restand is pretty nice, especially because Mediell can possibly put an extra crit on it, making for a lot more pressure. Elise is honestly a good card. I just don't like her because she costs soul and she came out at the same time as Phyllis did, and neither of them make sense to me of why one of them is more important than the other, when in reality it's honestly this one, because this gets you soul for everything, and this deserves to be at a 3 of at most. So yeah, 4 of Elise, she's just a good grade 2. She gets the restand, she gets the multi-attack. Not good power output, but you know what? Fuck it. She's good enough. We're in Lyrical. They had the over. Why not? Then we have one of in the ride deck of our last grade 2, Making Smile as Blue, Mediell. Grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base. Auto when she's wrote upon by a grade 3 with Mediell's card name. Look at top 3, choose up to 1. From among them, put it to top, discard the rest. Essentially, mill 2, put the top to the thing. Okay, so this is a free deck stack. I'm not necessarily against it, because if you combo it right off of Ninon and Yuto along with it, technically you can stack your twin drive. Yeah, technically you could stack your twin drive. Technically, like, no, you couldn't. Yeah, it's impossible to stack a twin drive with this. But like, my point is that you could find multiple ways to stack your drive checks with these 3. But my issue with it is, I don't know, it's just like the most forgettable skill I've ever seen. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I've walked past the skill and not realized I didn't use it. Like, on camera, I remember specifically from the video that I did with this, where Mediell, I know I cut it out, but I had actually forgotten to use her skill, and I rewound a total of 2 minutes of gameplay, which it was still during the Mediell's main phase, because I was reading cards and kind of playing around combos. And yeah, I rewound about 2 minutes of video to remember that I actually fucked up and I had to go do her skill. So, you know, she's a very forgettable skill in my mind. Maybe she had a cost, but, you know, it's a free deck stack, so why not run her out of one of in the right deck? Then we have our grade 3s. 4 of Shut and Shower, Lulea. Grade 3, 200 persona, 13k base. Act rear, once per turn. If you have Vanguard of Mediell's card name, Crown Boss 1, look at the top card, put it at the top her soul. If you put it, and she gets plus 5 regardless. So 18k, and either you get the top card of your deck stacked, or you get a soul card. Again, I say, ways to stack your drive check. Honestly, Lulea's good. Again, I say, we have more ways to get more soul than Phyllis herself can bet out. But you know what? Because of this grade 3, I give Phyllis more reason to be ran, because now we have something else eating Counterblast. But honestly, I was so tempted not to run this just so I could say Phyllis is shit. Because let's be fair, Phyllis, as the first skill does absolutely nothing, because the 5k to Vanguard does not make a difference. Well, it makes some difference, but not a lot. And then that 5k from drop, okay, let's be fair. Unless you constantly have these 3 in the drop zone, the most you're ever going to get from this is a 13k in total. Not for a plus, but in total as a booster, she'll be a 13k. So yeah, I was honestly so tempted not to run this just so I could choose not to run Phyllis. But because she's in here, Phyllis gets in here just simply because, just in case I have counterboss problems. 4 of Lulea, well, we can call her as Phyllis's babysitter, so we have reason to bring her to the party. 4 of. Then we have Fondue Celis Mediell, our last grade 3 and our last unit in the deck. Grade 3, 200 persona, 13k base, active AM, once per turn, Crown Boss 2, reveal the top card, perform one of the following according to its card type. If it's a normal unit, you add the card to your hand. Choose a card from drop, call to rear, and the card unit gets +1 crit for the turn. If it's a trigger unit, you countercharge 1 instead. Choose a card from your drop, and you still call to rear guard, and you put the unit and you put the reveal card back to top. So basically, one of 2 things happen. If it's a normal unit, well, regardless of what happens, you get a free unit. But then what happens next is dependent on what type it was. If it was a normal unit, let's just say it was a PG, cool, you get a free PG to your hand and the normal unit call gets a crit, basically making this restand much more deadly. Or if you're me and every time you use a skill it's a fucking trigger, you get a counter charge, which is also why I don't use Phyllis, because I know I don't need to. And then also, you get a free trigger to top. Like, regardless if you see a trigger or no, or like regardless if you know you're gonna see a trigger or no, let's be fair, you have enough deck stacking to where you should see a trigger, and even if you don't, that doesn't justify reason to use Phyllis, because like I said, even the times where I haven't seen a trigger, which is rare, Phyllis still wouldn't have done much. The most she would have done is made me feel a little bit more comfortable playing, and that's it. And even then, the game still would have ended out the same way. So, if there's anything you can take away from this video, is I don't like Phyllis, and Phyllis is, while she is good, she is not the most important card in this deck, and this deck can definitely live without her in every way, shape, or form. 3 of Mediell in the main deck, 1 of in the riot deck. It's a free deck stack. You know your triggers are coming. This becomes a dangerous restander, and that's all I can say about it. And that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. Honestly, like, Mediell is not a bad line. It gets rears. It has the generic restand thing, which I'm really starting to hate if I haven't made that clear in any of my latest videos with Vanguard, or Overdress specifically. I don't mind the theme. I kind of hate the fact that they're the ones that have lottery and not something from Stoicheia, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt here and say they're just starting to run out of ideas because they literally just made 6 ride lines out of fucking nowhere for some reason. At least the grade 1 and 2 are consistent, the grade 3 are. They have good support. Phyllis is the card I just constantly question because I feel like people think it's a little bit more useful than it is. But yeah, whatever. Point is, this deck's fine. If you want to run it, go ahead. I'm not even trying to say it's fun this time because, like, again, I said at the start, it feels super generic playing this. I don't feel a sense of satisfaction from it. It's one of the few decks I get that from. So take that as you will. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys enjoyed more than I did. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join Discord for the Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your Vanguards.
Thank you.